Today's learning target is I can find and estimate square roots.
Today we're going to focus on finding square roots. Now when we see this sign right here, this is called a radical sign. And radical sign means we're going to find the square root of this number. So in this case, the square root of 36. So to find the square root of a number, we're looking at what number we can square in order to equal this number right here, 36. So I know in this case that 6 squared would be 6 times 6, and that equals 36. So the number I would square would be 6. So the square root of 36 would equal 6. If I was finding the square root of 16, I know that 4 squared is 16, so the square root of 16 would equal 4. So let's take look at this one here. So we've got a negative sign before the radical sign, and then the square root of 36. Now in this case, we're going to find the square root of 36, which we remember from up top here is 6, because 6 squared is 36. But now we have the negative sign on the outside, so our answer for this one is going to actually be negative 6. Now you might be asking, well, why don't we just write it like this, the square root of negative 36? Now if we think about this, this is a unique problem because if we're trying to find what number squared gives us negative 36, there is no number, right? Because negative 6, if you square negative 6, you'd have negative 6 times negative 6, and that would give you a positive 36. So if we have a problem like this, there's actually no solution for that. So for our answer, we just write that no solution, or no answer for that. Our last problem here has a plus or a negative sign and the square root of 36. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out my square root of 36. So I know that 6 times 6 would give me 36. Now I have to take into account that it says plus or negative. So to show that, that means it can either be a plus or a negative 6, or I could write that 6 or negative 6 for my answer.
Sometimes you're going to be asked to estimate square roots to the nearest integer or the nearest whole number.
So in this case, we have the square root of 33. Now, I know this isn't going to be a perfect square. I can't multiply anything by itself to get 33. Okay, but if I'm going to estimate, I know that I'm just trying to get as close as possible. So to do this, what I think about is I say, all right, I know that 6 squared would give me 36. Now, I know that's a little too high, so the one below that would be 5 squared, and that would be 25. So now I look at which of these squares is closer to 33, and I can see that 36 is going to be closer to 25. So the best estimate for the square root of 33 would be 6.
Sometimes it's going to tell you to use a calculator in order to estimate the square root. So if we are asked to find the square root of 40, all right, and on a calculator like this, I'm going to do 40 and hit the square root key. On the calculator using Google, you can see right here, I actually had to hit the square root key first and then go 40 equals. And that gives me this answer right here. Now it will typically tell us where to round to. Let's round this to the nearest tenth. So in this case, the square root of 40 is going to be about 6 3/10.